Welcome to Season 1, Episode 7 of the Back Roads Homesteading Podcast. Thank you all for joining us. We have a special guest today, John Overall, who is a WordPress whiz as well as small homesteader. John, go ahead and tell us a little bit.
All right. Well, I got into basically small homesteading and stuff. Yeah, I'm a WordPress whiz. I've been doing WordPress work for 15 plus years on the internet for 25 years. But a few years ago, well before the COVID thing came along, I was starting to think about preparing stuff, and I had access to a backyard. At the time, it belonged to my mom and my brother, and they weren't doing anything with it, just a big pile of grass. So I approached them, how about do something? Think about it. And I had a longer plan than now, and it started about, give or take, a couple months before the COVID thing came along, and they approved me taking over their backyard and ripping out all the grass. You can find out more about it at theropesoasis.com. But what I did in it was I took a small plot of land, a city-sized lot, a 65-foot by 120-foot long lot, 3-bedroom house, taking up a large chunk of the front half of it. And I took the backyard and built a small oasis, garden beds, vines and trees, and I don't even know how to describe it all exactly. Yeah. So that's basically what I've been doing.
How long ago was that?
Started in 2020. So I'm moving into year 5 of it. I have the first 2 years. I did extremely good videos. Well, not extremely good. I did decently good videos. They're up on my YouTube channel for the first 2 years, from grass to the end of the second year of it. Moving into the third year. And in the third year, I broke my camera and I have to replace it. And also, in that time period there, I got to know a couple of friends in the neighborhood, and I ended up joining the local farmers market. And initially, I went into the farmers market to sell the extra plants I was producing. And then I had a batch of good luck where I had a small windfall of cash and I bought a freeze dryer. Initially, the freeze dryer was for my own use, store out, stock up, have some stuff prepared of my own home cooking and all the good foods I make. And somebody asked about the fruits I was trying. I said, well, let's take some to the market and see if they sell. Turned out they sold very well. And I kept expanding on my line, and now I have a full line of freeze-dried products. It keeps going. I'm heading back to farmers market, ready to start again in about 2 weeks. The market opens up again up in that area. And I'm looking to that. There's been a lot of challenges today. One of them is I've been a gardener off and on all my life, but I've never had an opportunity to do it on a consistent basis. As you get going on it consistently and trying to produce enough product in a small plot of land that you can actually sell the extra, it gets to be challenging using space, growing the right amount of things, figuring out a whole little microclimate when you're in a smaller plot of land, because what you can grow in your yard, your neighbor 2 blocks away or a block away might not be able to grow as effectively. I've discovered. Really kind of an interesting discovery. The other is figuring out where in your yard or which garden bed you're going to put things in. I've had to move things around year to year. First couple of years, moving to different beds. I didn't do well here. It needs more sun, less sun. Just moving it around. Those kind of challenges there.
Right. And you are on the West Coast there.
I am. I'm on the West Coast of Canada. I'm on the Vancouver Island, which Vancouver Island we are like a zone, anywhere from zone 8 to, mine's a zone 8A. That's where I'm at, further on the south end of the island. So I live partway up in the mid island where the oasis is at. My south part, so in the South Island, the zones, I'm trying to remember if the numbers go up or down. It's upper, so it's a zone 8, South Island. South Island everything starts growing on the South Island 2 weeks before it starts growing in the middle.
Yeah, it's a fascinating geographical feat. I'm down here in Arkansas in Zone 7A, here up in Canada, and a lot of us Midwesterners don't typically remember that Pacific stream of warm air feeds that part of the world. So
yeah, it's kind of an oddball thing when you look at the zone maps. You see, wow, why would they get nicer growing conditions? And we get great growing conditions. We get semi-mild winters. The mid-island gets still colder winters. Sometimes it gets snow that hangs around for a couple, 3 weeks. Barely falls.
What are your most popular products that sell at the farmers market that seem to do well pertaining to your produce,
Uh,
candies and that kind of stuff?
well, what I sell well now is I've got to focus on it this last year and staying with the freeze dried products. The produce stuff I turned into different freeze dried products, and it was fruit. It was my biggest ones. Like I'm growing blackberries and cherries and blueberries and everything else, and what fruit I can't grow, I buy frozen to freeze dried.
Right.
But produce wise, other produce, like I do grow a ton of onions and garlic, which are really easy to grow. And this year here, I have a friend of mine who has some farmland near me, and he volunteered a small chunk of his land so I can increase my garlic and onion.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, we do very well with our onions and chop it up and freeze drying them. Probably the thing we use just about every day is the freeze dried onions that we make. So yeah, I totally understand that. Down here in Arkansas, we just had a conversation at one of the places we sell at, and the health department came in and said, when you cut the fruit, you have to be. They were questioning because I get a lot of my stuff flash frozen from different farms across the country, and they have to be certified organic. And he's like, well, it says here that if you're freeze drying it, I think you still have to process it in a commercial kitchen. It doesn't apply to your, what most people consider it as like a cottage law. And so that was a new one for us. But the place we sell it at does have a certified kitchen, so we're working on an agreement there. And much like you, I got some stuff that I grow here for personal use, but I do also have some land that we're looking at in Missouri and a couple of the properties here in the Ozark Mountains. So it's definitely like you said, where certain things are going to grow better in certain areas, and doing your soil tests and getting an idea of what best matches that soil going to be, the way to maximize that space.
Yeah.
So you guys, so the farmers market now, is that something that you run, or is it something?
No, it's locally hosted. I almost got to run it because the previous person who was running it gave it up a couple of, I guess, year before they gave it up, and I was in the running to be chosen to take it. Another couple took it over, and farmers markets here, they allow people to, you make your stuff at home. When you're selling it, you put up a sign that says this is not made in an officially certified kitchen, so that people buying it know it's not made that way. I haven't expanded yet to be able to retail it because, like you, I have to have a commercial kitchen to prepare it in. I do have a line on one. There's a small store in the area I work at. A lady who owns it now, she bought it and she's turning the back end of it into a commercialized kitchen, which she'll rent out to people, and so I'll rent her commercialized. Like the other thing that I do sell and I make is hot sauce. I specialize in growing hot peppers, and I grow everything from mild habaneros all the way up to Carolina Reapers. And I make unique blended hot sauces in small batches. They've been a major hit.
Yeah, we've also made a few of our own hot sausage and sauce stuff. So we processed our last hogs. We took all those freeze-dried hot sauce blends and dumped them into the sausage. Yeah, again, when you have the ability to freeze dry a lot of the moisture out of the pepper, you can create some very different flavors.
Mm-hmm.
And then throw them in the smoker and modify it even further. So yeah, the smoke and spice and hot sauce world is definitely
it's one that I've been doing since the beginning, because I've always loved hot peppers, and I realized I can grow hot peppers. I have a greenhouse that I get things started in the early year because our growing season is short, and I figured out how to overwinter. I managed to overwinter 8 pepper plants this year.
Excellent.
And so they produce even faster in the new year, and they produce even hotter peppers the older the plant gets. And the freeze drying, that's the other thing I did do with freeze drying, is I went into making hiking, camping, freeze dried camping, and also little accessories, because I still like to get outdoors and camping. And then I started introducing those, and I started selling those. Like I make one for the Tex-Mex rice, for my Mexican rice and beans, which includes guacamole and sour cream freeze dried and packaged. Makes the meal that much better. Camping. So, yeah, the hot sauces, I freeze dried those. Those became a small hit for backpackers who like to take a little bit of hot sauce with them but don't want to carry a jar.
Yeah, that's sauces and rubs. That's the best way to do it.
Yeah. Those are a lot of the products I'm working on. I did have a new product this year, which is kind of interesting. It's not something I thought of. I had one of my customers from the market last year emailed me about December or something and asked for something called baby milks.
And milk?
Baby milk, yeah. And I'm like, okay, what's that? She sort of explained it's like a little treat for toddlers and young kids who are just beginning to learn how to eat and pick foods up. And basically, it's a fruit puree. And the biggest problem I found with fruit that's pureed down when you freeze dry it is it's just powderized. And so I needed to find a binder and something that stayed all 100% natural ingredients, no fillers, sugars, and everything else to it. And that's what she was asking for. And so I went and researched it online for what I could find. And after enough research, I found that you mix fruit and coconut milk together, blend it up with just the right proportions, and it's freeze dried, holds together beautifully, but yet crumbles and just melts in your mouth.
Wow, I wouldn't have suspected.
Neither did I until someone comes along and asks you for something. You go, oh no, let's see what I can do. And she became my first customer, and she's been banding about all her mommy food. So it's becoming a pretty decent product. I'll find out what happens when I bring it to the market.
Well, we wish you the best of luck on that. I've never heard of that. That's very fascinating.
Yeah, and I've made a couple of minor posts about it on my Twitter feed, but I have yet to expose it fully until I just fully perfected it a couple of weeks ago. And I've just started packaging. It'll be showing up on my Twitter feed before too long. That's what I've been doing with it, and also the recipes and all the recipes for everything I do eventually end up on my website. I like to share the knowledge with the people and be like, hey, if we can help you out, all the better.
Like, yeah, that sounds good. The homestead, the Backroads podcast is primarily focused on homesteading, and a lot of folks seem to have some analysis paralysis when it comes to getting started and thinking they need hundreds of acres and all this stuff. And you and I seem to have a similar situation. I just moved to a 5-acre property, but before that it was a 1/4 acre, and before that it was smaller. And, letting people know that, hey, it's okay to grow in your garage and put a little greenhouse up and maybe do some towers. Or I had one gentleman on Twitter who is, younger kid, and he wants to get started. He doesn't have a homestead yet. I'm like, hey, just grow in some buckets, get some 5-gallon pails that are food grade, and start planting in buckets and have a place to grow it yet, and just put it on your back porch or something.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I started in my apartment, and I still, like I said, I live part-time in an apartment in South Island, and I live part-time up. But my apartment faces south, so I was able to turn the balcony into several things of growing. It won't replace your food, but it'll give you a supplement. It'll improve your diet and also teach you some of the skills you need for when you do get land. And it's like what I'm on right now is 0.17 of me. That's the whole lot size. And I am saving money with my daughter and her soon-to-be husband, and I am saving money with them so that we can buy a larger plot. That's how it works. You start small, you build up, you save up, you earn along little by little. But yeah, it's easy to start small.
It's, I think also Curtis Stone has a lot of series on homesteading and finding ideal plots and that kind of stuff. So if you're just new to homesteading and you don't know Curtis Stone, you got to look him up, because he is definitely one of the better resources, especially in Canada.
He's definitely a good Canadian, and he was one of my inspirations. He was one that inspired me in the couple of years leading up. That was following all his stuff when he was doing the urban farming. So, and that's what inspired me, was watching his urban farming, because he built his business from backyards. And there's a lot of people that have grass that they would be happy to see it turned into food.
Right. Absolutely.
All you do is approach people and say, hey, I turn over your grass and grow stuff. You get a portion of the harvest. I get a portion of the harvest. Fair deal. That's what my buddy with the farm is doing. He gets a portion of the harvest for the onions and garlic. He's given me a very large chunk of space to grow it. I think I increased my planting to about 800 onions and about 500 garlic.
Wow, that's great.
I-
I still got some white onions to get in. I put one huge row in, get some walking onions, and then some red onions, and I didn't even get the garlic in the ground. It's been a struggle to garden here, trying to amend the soil. We got two garden plots here that are fairly robust. They're like 100 by 100.
Mhm.
So trying to manage that much soil amendment at one time is definitely, on top of, doing your other duties, deliveries and that kind of stuff. It's, a job on top of homesteading, which is pretty typical.
Yep.
It's it actually is one of those things that's burdens out a lot of people. As we come into as my last podcast talked about, coming into unsettling times, through times. I tell people you're crazy if you're not growing food right now. I would say you'll never grow food.
Yeah.
To really try to grow food right now would be a high priority, especially for a family.
Oh yeah.
Maybe it doesn't work, but you gotta try. In my opinion, people should give it a go, throw some seeds in the ground and give it some water and see what happens.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it is important, and it is unsettling times. And the biggest thing you got to do is the sooner you start, the sooner you make mistakes.
Right. You've got to make those mistakes to learn.
Right. Because you can read all the advice you want online, watch all the videos you want, try to do it the way you've seen them do it, and yet for some reason it doesn't work in your particular spot.
Yep.
And so you have to take all that advice and go, well, okay, why? Okay, well, and my temperature's a little different, my sun's a little different, all the little factors that go into it. So it's a constant adjusting. The sooner you get started, the better.
Right. What would be one of your biggest pieces of advice for people that are just getting started in homesteading or thinking about homesteading?
Get started on the small stuff first. Get started on your home preps. Learn to cook if you're not already cooking. Learn how to cook. Learn how to read a recipe, and find an old cookbook if you can. It's like I have a cookbook that dates back to the 1930s. It's my mom's home economics. Okay. And it's one of the cookbooks that you open it up, it gives you a base recipe, and then for the next 5 pages, it gives you all the variations. Right. And if you land on the variation, you have to go back and make the base. So it's a cookbook that uses real ingredients. And my daughter's done. She's compared to even my sons and my granddaughters. They've done some really interesting things. Like they actually sat down and compared it to a modern cookbook. How do these modern cookbooks tell you to grab a can, a box? That's not food. And it was wonderful to hear that out of them, to say, that's not food. A can or a box means the knowledge is getting into them. It's not food.
Right.
But
yeah. Have you ever seen the YouTube channel Townsend?
So I don't think I have.
Townsend. Yeah, like the old school town. It's a 18th century historical YouTube channel that explores how.
Years. I have seen that.
Yeah, they do a lot of ancient cooking and how to do these recipes based on natural ingredients, and it's a fascinating. They got cookbooks too that they sell on their website. Mm-hmm. Just a wealth of information on how to live off the land and cook. So.
Yeah, well, that's the most important thing I would say is learn some of these basic skills, right? Because we don't know how our society's going to be. We know that there's lots of troubles out there. I try to avoid as much as possible the mainstream news. I pay attention to it because it does have an impact on my life, but I don't internalize it. I just want to be aware of the situations. The situations tell me that there's problems. Like we have problems with our supply lines. Just even going to the grocery store here, I noticed it. I documented some of it from the beginning of COVID. So the last couple of years, watching stores I go to, watching how things would vanish from the shelves for weeks at a time and suddenly come back, watching price increases of everything that's gone up. You can, in my Twitter feed,
watch that happen every month still.
Every month still. And like I think I might have posted about one once. I do like my Campbell's soup, in particular the clam chowder, and I've been buying the larger can for years, and then I keep a stock of them, and every time I'm in the store, I'll buy 1 or 2 cans. One day I bought them, and I didn't think. I just grabbed the can, it looked the same size, and I brought it home on the shelf. It's like, wait a minute, this new can is taller, thinner. And then I compared. They had kept the same price, but had dropped the weight by 110 grams of it. And they changed the can size so that gives you the illusion of still being the same size.
Right. Yep, so, that's an old marketing trick that they use in the Depression era. To make it look like the same price, reducing the quantity, but making the packaging match so that it feels bigger.
Yeah, and these are the things that I've been noticing. Sometimes I manage to document and put them out for other people to be aware, but this is continuing, and it seems like it's going to continue for a few years. Down in the States, you guys got the problem of your election coming up and the turmoil that's going to be around that. So,
I don't think that there's going to be much positive when it comes to that election.
No,
it's not going to. It's not going to pan out like people think.
No, and we've got the same problem approaching Canada next year.
I've been watching Trudeau and Peterson. Jordan Peterson has been an eye opener, and his cohorts have been a real. Ever since the Trucker Freedom Convoy, we knew that Canada was falling just like America was. So, it's unfortunate because most of the providences, once you get out of the big cities, are exactly like the states of the United States, where once you get out of the big cities, everything is a natural law, conservative, ethical, moral, godly people. And it's really unfortunate watching this many cities of Babylon falling at the same time.
Oh yeah, well that's part of the problem, and we're trying to, as Canadians, we're doing the best we can, but we're fighting the battle, and it's tough at times. So your government parliament stuff is very different than the way we do things, but it is, and the thing is
their governance has quite a bit more power to do things.
They do, unfortunately. Unfortunately, they have way more power than the states has in the governments here, and they give. Well, they did that too. The states did it too, but here in particular, they gave power to unelected people to tell us what to do. It was quite a horrendous time during the COVID.
Yeah, it was a big eye opener and a big move towards police state communism, socialism.
Yeah,
I mean they wrapped their greedy hands around the people at that point. And again, as homesteaders, as people who are trying to navigate all of this, we're just dealing with the basics. Like they're going to try to turn off our water meters. They're going to try to close the supermarkets and then print the money into oblivion. So one day the banks will close, and what are you going to do?
Well,
you look at how countries like this have fallen, and it doesn't matter if it's as big as the United States or Canada or smaller countries. It seems to follow the same pattern across history of when a country goes corrupt and starts to fall. Key elements like their food security, trade routes, economic climate pertaining to world trade, and then their financial crisis of overprinting and not being able to devalue their currency at the same time. It's like you look at the fall of Rome on, and it all follows just about the exact same pattern.
Yeah.
And it's mind blowing to me that our generations are like, oh, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Like if it was fine, that would be a biblical miracle.
It would,
because the numbers don't add up, and there's just no way to get out of what depression is coming. So I'm hopeful, but like the number, it just keeps getting worse and worse.
Yeah. Well,
again, as homesteaders, we have to prepare for this and just like, well, how much food can we grow? What network of co-op can we create? And what can we do with our neighbors in our community so that, the zombies that they talk about roaming at night are going to be just hungry, starving people.
Yeah.
So, one of my other friends who is, he was a veteran, and he's like, one of the first things that are going to go are your mind control drugs. So the people who are on your schizophrenic drugs and that kind of stuff to keep their schizophrenia at bay and that kind of thing, those are going to be gone first. And, oh man, you can literally make the population crazy in 24 hours.
Yeah, well,
because you turn off that.
Yeah, you can. And an interesting take on that, if you're like get in books. If you look up a book called One Second After, or 1 Minute After. Can't remember the author's name, but it's a book on what happened in a small community after an EMP in the U.S. It was a very eye-opening book. He took into consideration that exact scenario. What happens to all the people whose mind drugs are all cut off?
Right.
It's kind of an interesting thing. That is a problem. And that's part of what I'm doing right now. It's like, as I mentioned, I have a daughter, 2 sons, and 2 granddaughters. And I'm trying to make it so that their future, right, my time on this planet is limited. I'm on the back 9. But I want to make sure that their time going forward is better. Or at least they can ride it through so that their kids can have a better chance.
Yep, absolutely.
And that's where I'm at right now. It's like I'm trying to make sure that my family is taken care of down through the generations.
I think that's all we can do as parents.
Yeah, well,
do that.
That's what our goal is as parents, is to make it so that our kids have a better life than we had. That's what our ancestors did for us, and they left us something quite amazing. And somehow we managed to make a mess of it in the last 20 years.
Yeah, especially the last 20 years.
Yeah, the last 20 years have been, from my perspective, it's like it's true.
Yeah, weak men have been created, and hard times did follow. So that proverb is definitely
it's a very true proverb. We just didn't see it.
Right. So other things that we can, I guess we'll wrap up with the podcast on some other ways to support a homestead, talking about some other ways to produce income to keep the homestead sustainable.
Well,
we had looked in some of our show notes.
Well, the way my homestead's being sustained right now is through my primary business, which is WP Pro A to Z, which is a web hosting, a web design business that I've been running for 20 years. I make a pretty good income off it, and so I decided to use that income to do something different. One, I want to retire from this industry of the internet. I've been doing it for so long. It's hard on my back, hard on my eyes, to sit in front of the computer for 6 to 8 hours a day.
Right.
But that's what a lot of people should do, and I've seen that recently through different shows and other stuff I've watched, as they start talking about, our homestead doesn't make us money. It supplements us a little bit, but it's still costly. And in a homestead, a lot of things you got to realize is there's a lot of upfront. You've got your equipment, getting your soil in shape, getting your livestock, your initial livestock. Once you start breeding your own, the livestock only costs feed at that point. There's all the infrastructure, buildings, outbuildings, fences, everything like that. That's upfront. Those are costs that once paid for and kept maintained, their costs become very minimal at the time. And then you start to see a profit down the road. A lot of people think, I'll just get into this. This is, I saw some funny one somebody posted on Twitter. This lack of the modern term, we'll go with the yuppie term, which is from my generation. From that, I guess they call them woke people. They were yuppies when I was young.
Yeah, I guess it would be.
It was a couple from the city who went out to start a homestead, thought they could just become celebrities on the internet. And it's like, you got this one video of the husband in there freaking out when he's trying to clean a chicken coop. It's like, you're going to get lucky. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's a chicken coop. He's like, I know, I cleaned mine out this last week. And she's like, oh, God.
Yeah.
So, and it's like, but you have to be aware of what you're going to do. Yeah, to support your homestead, depend on the incomes you have. Don't give up your day jobs. You can't give up your day job until you can support it. If the world comes to an end, well, your day job's gone anyway, so hopefully your homestead can keep you fed, which is the big rate, because you want to be kept fed.
And, folks come into this thing thinking they're going to grow a social media channel and support it that way and that kind of stuff. And that space is really tight, not to mention the homesteading genre is small.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a very big moneymaker because there's just simply not a lot of, there's more people doing it now than there used to be.
Mm-hmm.
But, if you're going to do social media influencing and that kind of stuff, you're going to have to really understand a small niche and, approach this from a business aspect as opposed to, like our homestead channel is not monetized on YouTube, but our Backroad 4x4 is, and our Larkcraft medieval fantasy channels are. So, there's other things that we're doing, to support that and, doing jobs in town and that kind of stuff as well. So the premise, I think you hit it on the spot, was to get the homestead prepared so when society shuts down, it can sustain you.
Yep.
At least partly.
That's the biggest thing. Is that when you think back to how did people survive in the 1930s?
Yep.
That's one of the biggest things. How did they survive in the 1800s? Go to the 1800s and 1930s. 1930s was the last time people were basically
right.
And then we moved everyone into the cities. But yeah, and there was what was it I was going to say there? So, hold on, that thought's gone. I hate when that happens. Have a thought. But I've had a lot of challenges along the way. Oh, you'd said about the making a monetizing in the social media space as well. They said I've done podcasting now for 15 years, and my podcast was a WordPress podcast. And WordPress is another small niche community, and I never expected it to make me money. What it did do, though, for me was got my name out. And that's the big thing. It got my name out there and helped make me an expert in the field. And that's the biggest thing I can see social media doing. Everyone else wants to try and make money on it. No, you can make money off of everything else you did. What value do you bring? That's where you make your money. It's where you present value or something.
Right.
So,
yeah, things to consider and things to talk about with your, your local homesteading community. If you haven't joined one of your homestead networks locally, it's time to start looking those up. Go to the meetings. If you have any, if there isn't any, start one.
Yep.
Beauty of the internet right now is you can create a Facebook group and Twitter account and YouTube channel and stuff with very minimal time invested, and toss out there, meet at a shelter at a park somewhere and go from there, and just got to start somewhere.
Yeah, that's the big thing. I'm slowly making connections in the community I go to up north. My problem is there's not enough time up there right now to make full connections. So
yeah, it's definitely worth looking at. Well, John, it was a pleasure talking with you and meeting you. Hopefully we can have you on the podcast again. I'd really like to know more about the freeze dried first nibblers.
Oh, what?
Children.
Yeah.
Stuff.
The baby melts. I'll be happy to reach out to you some more. And one of the things I want to do is I'm reviving I have another podcast called the Rogues Tavern Talk. Okay. And I haven't recorded it now for a couple of years, but I did record it religiously during the first 2 years of COVID. I did over 110 episodes of it with my daughter. It's not easy to find because I just recently listened back through all of them and realized I was a little angry at that point in time.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I am reviving it with a new format, and it's be revived. So maybe I can pull you onto that show for Tavern Talk.
Yeah, that'd be great. We'd love to support you. So thank you very much. And if this is your first time listening, please like, share, subscribe, download from your favorite podcasting network, and join us again. The backroadshomesteading.com website also has a free e-newsletter. Jump on there, hit the join button, and it'll send you a confirmation email. And then you can get up to speed with all the different content that we produce in one weekly email. It's an easy way to keep up with everything we're doing. John, thank you again.
Thank you.
We'll talk soon.
All right.